Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Anita Posh Show, a Bitcoin-only podcast. My guest today is Diego Gutiérrez Zaldívar, CEO of IOV Labs and the co-founder of LaBitconf, the first Bitcoin conference in Latin America, which was founded in 2013. And Diego is also the co-founder of Bitcoin Iberoamérica, an NGO devoted to Bitcoin education. We're going to talk about Rootstock, the sidechain that is merge mined with Bitcoin, and the developments in El Salvador and other topics. Before that, a short message about my new book and from my sponsors. And after that, enjoy the interview. Living on crypto is easier than you think with Bitrefill. Choose from over 4,000 gift cards and mobile top-up options from around the world. I used Bitrefill to top up my phone when I was visiting Zimbabwe. It was easy, worked like a charm, and I even earned sats back. Pay with Bitcoin, Lightning, Ethereum, Dash, Tether over Tron, and many more options. No account is necessary. Join the thousands of users around the world who are living on crypto today using Bitrefill. Join now at bitrefill.com and start earning sats back with each purchase. That's bitrefill.com.
Learn Bitcoin will teach you the why and how to use Bitcoin. Gleaning wheat from chaff, Anita writes with the simplicity, clarity, and precision necessary. Exiled surfer, communications lead at SOVRYN BTC. Order your copy now at learnbitcoin.link. That's learnbitcoin.link.
Did you know that last year more than 14 million trades were made with gift cards on Paxful? That's 14 million discounts that were given in exchange for Bitcoin through regular entrepreneurs like you and me. Through these trades, entrepreneurs can make a profit. At the same time, they help unbanked people around the globe send money back home or access the global economy. And international business with Bitcoin is possible for everyone, and Paxful truly believes it. Find out how entrepreneurs around the world have been changing their lives with Bitcoin and Paxful.com by checking out this link, anita.link/Paxful. That's anita.link/Paxful. Hello, Diego. Welcome to the Anita Posh Show. I'm glad that you could make it.
My pleasure, Anita. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I heard a lot about your projects and also RSK, the Rootstock sidechain we're also going to talk about. But maybe our listeners don't know who you are. Please introduce yourself.
Well, who I am, difficult question. It's like what I do, maybe it's easier to express, but I've been in technology and trying to use technology for social transformation since the mid-90s. I was one of the pioneers of the web back in 1995, and I always saw technology as a means to transform society. I lived the web revolution, and although it was exactly as we expected, it did change society in many, many aspects. And I think one thing that we were missing back then was the economic element. No, so when I got in touch with Bitcoin, first I got in touch with Bitcoin in 2011. I didn't get it, or I didn't get the true depth of it. And then in 2012, when a good friend of mine brought me back to Bitcoin, I realized Bitcoin was the missing piece for what I wanted to do. That is actually to build a society where individuals would be empowered and would sort out the problems of society by themselves without depending on third parties or intermediation to do so. So when that happened, I decided to devote myself in full to Bitcoin. First creating communities in Argentina and Latin America, and then later on decided I wanted to focus on financial inclusion and see how Bitcoin could be used for that purpose. And that's how I started the companies I lead today, organizations that I lead today that are looking to expand Bitcoin into a full financial system that can provide financial services to any human being in the world.
In which year did you then start to work for Bitcoin or to build these communities? When was that? And can you please tell us what was the aha moment? You know, like the moment where you realized, okay, that's really working. That's it.
Well, I started to use Bitcoin and be part of Bitcoin in 2012. And at the beginning, I was more or less doing everything there was to it. Like I was meeting in cafes in Buenos Aires with people, and then selling Bitcoins. With some friends, we bought a bus to go around Latin America. So some of them were sending me Bitcoins. I was selling them for dollars to buy the bus, to pay for repairs. So we had that project. I also bought a miner machine, like a GPU machine. In the early days of Bitcoin, most of the 3D gaming community in Argentina were the early Bitcoin miners in 2011. So I bought the machines from them, get to know who was involved in Bitcoin back in 2012. And as I knew from my previous experiences that, disruptive technologies are very difficult to understand, I decided to start creating the community in early 2013. And in the first meetup I co-hosted, I met Rodolfo and Franco, Rodolfo Andrañez and Franco Amati, and we instantly clicked because the three of us wanted to create not only the Argentinian Bitcoin community, but the Latin American Bitcoin community. And it was funny because we were meeting in a McDonald's and like planning how to conquer the world, like saying, okay, we will create like a regional, Bitcoin community, which now is a reality, but it was kind of madmen discussing how to do that. So we share that madness. No, we wanted to do something valuable for Latin America. We saw Bitcoin as a tool to do that, and we decided to work together. And then we started multiple projects: LaBitconf, the Latin American Bitcoin Conference, in 2013. At the end of 2013, 2014, we set up the Bitcoin Center, the first Bitcoin Center in Latin America in Buenos Aires, which is still running. And later on, we helped leaders in all Latin America create the local Bitcoin communities. I was also traveling around. So that's how it started. It's like, first I started like getting to use it, to be part of the Bitcoin network. And then with Rodolfo and Franco, we started creating communities. And my aha moment was interesting because, as I told you, I got in touch with Bitcoin in 2011. I really didn't get it. I mean, it was interesting, but I didn't get like the true depth of it until 2012, when a good friend of mine, Wences Casares, like, he brought me back to Bitcoin. He told me he was living in Silicon Valley and I was in Buenos Aires. In Buenos Aires, we had capital controls. It was almost impossible getting money in and out of Argentina. And Wences told me, yeah, open an account here in blockchain.info. And I did, and he sent me Bitcoins. And, he sent me a lot, like 5,000 Bitcoins. Back then it was like $50,000. It was much less, but still a relevant amount. And I didn't have to ask permission to anybody. It's like I just opened the account. He sent it. He told me, okay, give me back the Bitcoins. I was doubting for a minute, but then I sent them back. I sent and he told me keep one. So I kept one Bitcoin. Then I realized I didn't have one Bitcoin. I have 0.9995 Bitcoins. Then I realized I was paying for the fees of the network. So it was like, I said, okay, this is incredible because this is how a truly open and inclusive financial system would look, because we did all this. He was like thousands of kilometers away from me, we didn't have to ask permission for anybody. It was like a truly peer-to-peer. And then that was the moment I said, okay, I need to get deeper into this. There's something else here. And then I started reading about it. Like at the beginning, a lot about finance and the monetary system, because I come from technology, so I didn't know about the financial aspects to it. So I was reading like the history of money, how central banks were working.
I'm laughing because I'm very similar. I also come from internet web technologies, and I had to learn the same things that you are telling us now.
Exactly. And so indeed, for example, I subscribe to invest.com. They send you like one term per day. So for the first 2 years, I was like reading financial terms every day and then digging deeper to understand all the connected terms that I didn't understood. And in that process, that I was like maybe 15 days after that call with Wences, like non-sleeping, I connected with one article from Eric Boris. There is a libertarian view on Bitcoin or something like that. And somehow I read it afterwards, and I don't think he expressly says this, but for many years I was looking for ways to coordinate people without central authority or without intermediation. Like I was in search for means to coordinate human groups without this intermediation, because in my view, the concentration of power is the main problem of our society, because as people get more power, they get corrupted by it. So I was looking for ways to distribute or decentralize power. And when I saw Eric's article, I realized like Bitcoin was the tool I was looking for. So for me, it was more about the social elements, or Bitcoin as a social tool more than as a financial element. And then I used to have a web development company. I told my partners, I'm sorry, but I think I found my next thing. So I will be devoting myself to this. I help them like take over the company. And that's when my whole Bitcoin process started. And since then, I've been devoting my life to it. So I was right that it was where I wanted to be.
Yeah, great. And I think Wences Casares was very important in the first grassroots movement in Bitcoin. I think he was one of the first who grasped the idea and how important it can be for people, especially in Argentina.
Yeah, I think, he did the first meetup in Argentina at the end of 2012. But I think he was more important than on the grassroots movement, very important on the Silicon Valley movement, because he was living in Silicon Valley and he brought a lot of, I would say some of the top investors and the tech community in the Silicon Valley knew about Bitcoin early on because of him. So I would say he did like an amazing contribution, like evangelizing like the Silicon Valley top minds. And on the grassroots movement, I would say what we created with Rodolfo and Franco was more instrumental to, and with the early community on the Espacio Bitcoin and LaBitconf, those were the places where the grassroots movement started in Latin America. Mm-hmm. And but I think we all contributed some way or the other. No, it's like it was early days, but Wences was more focused because he was searching for something for many years that was actually like a financial backbone since the late 90s, when he started the first online bank, truly online bank, not a translation of traditional banking, but he was really willing to build like new rails. And then when he found Bitcoin, he found like the perfect tool for his work.
Yeah, I can imagine. So please tell us, what are the general big problems that people in Argentina face? Why Bitcoin is a solution, basically, or can be a solution?
I think in Latin America and in general, because I think Argentina is one example of the problems we have in Latin America. What we have suffered is from financial systems that are completely unreliable. We have suffered corruption as well, manipulation of the monetary system, constant manipulation of the monetary system. So people live in a situation where they don't have means. The local currency is not a way to protect your wealth. The rules are being changed all the time. Then you have corrupt systems that might get your funds at will. For example, in 2001 in Argentina, and that's something with Wences we share a lot, because he lived that situation where all our father's funds were locked by the government, and then when they got out of the locking, they were worth 1/4 of the value. So in a way, this was like, that's how we live in Latin America. Things that for the first world are very difficult to understand. For us, it's like we have all the things you might imagine. No, it's like lock-ins, devaluation, high inflation. So when you see Bitcoin in Latin America, you don't need to explain why Bitcoin is relevant to people in Latin America. They understand exactly that, what a store of value is and why it's needed to have alternative store of values. And even the dollar, sometimes, like I was saying, sometimes you have capital controls and you cannot get money in and out of the country. So even the dollar is not an option, because usually the dollar is accessed by the population in their cash, in the cash form. So you cannot move it through the frontiers or through the borders. So I think that's why Bitcoin is so relevant, because it gives freedom to people in extreme conditions and a store of value to people who has no access to other store of value. So even if you can say Bitcoin is highly volatile, it's less volatile than many of the local economies of Latin America. So that's why Bitcoin is a solution for people. It gives sovereignty back to individuals. It gives a way to protect their wealth, and it gives them freedom to transact with anybody in the world. So that's very valuable in Latin America and in emerging worlds markets.
You said something about in 2001. Was this the Corralito?
Yes, that was the Corralito. It was terrible because for a year, the banking system was completely locked. So people didn't have access to their life savings. It's like suddenly you were a retired person and you would not be able to access to your money for a year.
But why? What was the reason for that?
Well, the top banks, it was to protect the banking system, because the top banks took a lot of gambles into high-risk assets. And then when those assets collapse, that was the decision to basically lock all the funds from people and then change the exchange ratio between the peso and the dollar, and reduce the monetary value of all the savings by one fourth of the original value. So when people got the access to their money back, it was 1/4 of the original value.
So they stole the money from the people, basically.
Basically, to save the banking system, because what they should have done is basically bankrupt the banks, the local chapters of the banks, or tell the international, banks to basically cover their loss, because they were gambling, like betting on high-risk assets, and basically they translated very similar to, if you think, it's very similar. The solution was different, but very similar to what happened in 2008 when Bitcoin was born. It's the same thing. It's like they let the banking system gamble, and then when the bet went wrong, they say, okay, we will print more money. That's basically taking money from the pockets of everybody that was saving in US dollars. and we will inject it into the people who made the wrong decisions. So it's like, yeah.
So the bailout was in 2008-9, and is this called bail-in? What happened in Argentina in 2001?
Yeah, and I think it was the same thing that happened in Cyprus, no, in
exactly
2013. So conceptually, that was also related to one of the big adoption cycles of Bitcoin, no, in 2013.
And as far as I understand, because I also did an interview with Franco Amati some months ago, and he also told me about the fact that people in Latin America and in Argentina are very much used to live with multiple currencies. So you not only live with the peso, you are also used to use the US dollar. Is this basically a reason why it might be easier also for people there to use Bitcoin as a new currency?
Yes, absolutely. Because I always say Argentina is very special because on one side you have that. The economy is already split into the peso economy. I mean, people use the peso to live day by day, but nobody saves in pesos. Everybody that has access to some savings, it's basically saving in dollars. They don't use so you have a double monetary economy already in Argentina. And the other thing is Argentina is very friendly with new technologies. It was one of the first countries in Latin America to adopt the internet, cable TV, like many new technologies, social networks. So that, if you think about Bitcoin, it's the crossroads of both things. No, it's like it's finance and technology meeting. So you have a population that is very aware of how macroeconomics impact their lives. A population that is always hedging, sometimes with dollars, sometimes with products, like things that in other places are crazy, like stores. They say, okay, if they see like inflation shooting, what they do is they save the goods. They don't sell it because it's better to store in goods than actually having the pesos or selling them because pesos devaluate too fast. So you have a population that is always like hedging and protecting themselves from government manipulation and decisions making. So that's why it's the perfect ground for Bitcoin adoption in that sense.
And what function do the little trees have?
The little trees. The little trees are people in the streets that they exchange you the dollars, as the dollars are green, for pesos. So that's why they tell them trees, little trees, because they have the leaves. The dollars are the leaves of the little trees. And they are an informal currency exchange system. When you have capital controls, usually the government also forces an exchange rate against the dollar that is artificial. So what you have is like the parallel exchange rate, what is called the dollar blue, to call it, instead of black, it's called the blue market. So so they don't call it the black market, they call it the blue market. So you have the dollar blue, and then you have the official rate that is today is half the blue market. So the blue market is twice the price of the official rate. And that's another way of creating a tax, because everybody that sells services abroad is actually getting half of the money they are charging abroad. So that's quite a hefty tax for the people producing services and products in Argentina.
And then, of course, you rather use Bitcoin or Lightning.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
People is using more and more crypto for those purposes. No?
Yeah. And do the little trees now also exchange Bitcoin?
They do. They have been doing it for a while. I would say recently what you have is that they switched to, because they were living like side by side with dollar bills and Bitcoin. Now what they are doing is replacing dollar bills with the stable assets. So it's interesting that they are moving, a lot of them are moving into USDT and other stable assets. because it's easier for them to arbitrage markets, to move them abroad. So that's crazy. It's like crypto is getting deeper into it. It's not only Bitcoin, it's also using stable assets for their operations.
I heard that recently, that more and more people also want to be paid in stable coins.
Yes.
Which I think very interesting, because then they can decide, I want to use the stable coin, or maybe I want to save in Bitcoin, or I want to exchange it to fiat money.
Well, yeah, and I think stable assets are a bridge, because in a way, when we did the first experiments, like in the slums in Buenos Aires, to see how we could bring Bitcoin into the slums, we realized that the volatility of Bitcoin was not suitable for somebody that is living day to day or week to week or even month to month. If I always say that, even if it's controversial in the Bitcoin world, I always say Bitcoin is, as a store of value, is for people who can store value for a couple of years, because you need to be able to wait for the volatility to come, on a positive side, depending on where you enter. So that's maybe 20% of the population, but the rest of the world needs to have a more stable asset to operate on shorter terms. And I think stable assets provide that bridge. So it's like, as you say, it's like, if you manage to have savings, you will very likely want to move those savings, or midterm savings, you want to move that into Bitcoin. But if you need to operate on daily basis, you need something with less volatility. That at this point is the dollar, but I expect in the future we'll have some things that are non-political based, like commodity baskets of commodities, or different things like in the future will provide like short-term money that is more stable, but is not related to political subjectivity, if you want. So I think this will evolve eventually. But for now, the stable asset of choice in Latin America is the USD-related stable assets.
Mm-hmm. And because they already know about the USD, so they're familiar. Yeah. And how do you see? Did you also make experiments or studies about the usage, or how Lightning is or can be used? Is it better for people like in slums and these areas?
I think Lightning is just because the tools to use Lightning in a user-friendly way were very recent. It's like we just have there's a very well-known wallet, the Moon wallet, that is very good. The user experience is very good, but it took some time until we had wallets that were user-friendly. And I think, Lightning is growing. Also the Rootstock wallets that offer stable assets backed by Bitcoin and Bitcoin are getting more and more use, but still is not so frequent to see them in the slums. It's like the people in the slums are in a prior stage, and also they usually distrust all the new things or anything that comes from outside. So I think breaching that trust gap will take some time until they feel there's a reason why they distrust outsiders. It's because outsiders usually get in to get something from them, and they screw them, and then they leave. So they have this natural resistance, and also I think there is digitalization of money is something that is very recent. So it's two steps. It's like going from cash, because usually in the slums it's a cash driven economy. So moving from cash into digital, and then from digital to a new asset is a process. So I think we need some time to go to see adoption in those environments.
Understand? Yeah, it needs trust and education or experience with it. Yeah.
Yes.
So today we're recording on the 7th of September 2021, and it's a historic day for Bitcoin because from today on, Bitcoin is legal tender in El Salvador. I would be very much interested in your experiences, in your opinion on that, and also especially in a country like El Salvador, because I mean, I guess you know much more about that than we here in Europe and in the Western world.
Yes, I think it's, as we were speaking before starting the interview, I think it's like for all of us who have been in Bitcoin for so many years, it's like, a very special moment, because it's something we always expected, but are those things that not even yourself believe are going to happen someday, to have a country like you're accepting Bitcoin as legal tender. And so for me, it's the beginning of a new era. Regardless of how well it goes in El Salvador, of course, we want it to be successful in El Salvador, but I think the fact that one country took the leap of faith, is like into Bitcoin as a legal tender, is like a very strong message and sets the precedent for the future. So I think it's very interesting. I think I've been gathering information about what's going on in El Salvador. Many in the RSK Rootstock ecosystem are going there because, of course, Rootstock is smart contracts for Bitcoin. It's secured by the Bitcoin network. So everybody that is in the Rootstock ecosystem, we are Bitcoiners first, and we want to see Bitcoin evolve into a full financial system. That's why we are building what we are building. So for us, it was like a huge opportunity, and many of the leaders in our ecosystem, in the Rootstock ecosystem, already flew into El Salvador. Some are there now, and we were like trying to understand the phenomenon from inside, from the grassroots. And I think there's a lot of the situation is the population has a lot of fear. They don't understand exactly the consequences of this. I think how the law is implemented is very good in the sense that it's not imposing Bitcoin. It's like it's imposing the acceptance of Bitcoin as payment, but you can choose to accept dollars and keep. I mean, El Salvador per se was already working with dollars. The local currency, the colon, was almost non-existent. So I think it makes sense that El Salvador also accepts Bitcoin as a legal tender, because they already have no monetary policy making or anything. They have no say in their monetary policies already. So if you already are in the hands of somebody else, I must be in the hands of Bitcoin. That is politically neutral. Nobody can tamper with the issuance. And so I think it's, although there's a lot of fear, I think they are doing it in the right way, and I think it will be very interesting, the phenomenon. And yeah, our ecosystem is trying to sort the problems, the short-term problems of people using Bitcoin, like, for example, providing conversion to stable assets. In Rootstock, you have stable assets that are collateralized with Bitcoin, like the dollar on chain. So if you really want to stay within the Bitcoin ecosystem, you can like translate Bitcoins to dollars, but those dollars don't have counterparty risk, because it's a smart contract holding Bitcoin. So it's kind of going to back to a Fort Knox model, but with the transparency of open and decentralized blockchain, and knowing that the underlying asset is Bitcoin. So you can do that. And also you can lower transactional costs. There's a lot of things that are mostly the fears of people are about that. It's like, what I do if I get Bitcoins, how do I convert them to a stable asset that I know? How will I cope with the transaction fees? Although with Lightning, transaction fees are low, but also Rootstock has low transaction fees. So I think it's great that this is happening in this moment, because the layer 2 or the extended Bitcoin ecosystem is ready to provide solutions. So I think it will be very successful. But yeah, people still have fear about this. And 70% of the population don't have access to a smartphone. So there are other things that need to be sorted out. How we give access to the things with SMS, phone base. So I think if the government wants to be successful, they need to help with that, like also financing or providing the means for people to have access to internet, to smartphones. If they do that well and they do the educational process, I think that will be amazing.
Yeah, hopes are high. I mean, I don't know. Today, I've seen different people saying that it's not possible to send out the $30 in Bitcoin that everybody got airdropped into the Chivo wallet. It seems not to be possible to send it anywhere, so you have to spend it inside the Chivo ecosystem.
Chivo is a custodial system, so that's the other thing that I think the Rootstock ecosystem is trying to bring to El Salvador, like a non-custodial environment, because Chivo is custodial, it's a closed system. So I don't think it's like it's not what we as Bitcoiners expect, but I think it's a good step forward in the sense that at least it gives everybody exposure to the Bitcoin concept. It will create a lot of education, but of course, as a pure, Bitcoiner, or we know that, if it's not your keys, it's not your money. So, I think it's what is happening in that sense is something in between. It's not actually the real thing from our perspective, but it will take us closer to that. As I said, this is a multiple step processes. It's like going from cash to digital, from currencies people know into Bitcoin, and moving the understanding of people forward in that sense.
Understand. Yeah, you're right. Do you have any information on the 550 Bitcoin that the government bought today or in the last days? Who has the keys for those?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't want to wake up and somebody says there was a rug pull in El Salvador and the president went off with the 550 Bitcoin. That would not be the best for Bitcoin.
No, not at all. I think it's not enough money to run off the country yet, but eventually it will get to be something substantial.
Let's hope that won't happen. So you spoke a lot, not a lot, but of course we want to talk also about Rootstock now, because that's basically one of your main projects, I think. Tell our listeners, please, a little bit about Rootstock. What is it and what's the goal?
Rootstock is a second layer to Bitcoin. It's a separate blockchain that has smart contract capabilities. It's fully compatible with Ethereum virtual machine. So any smart contract on Ethereum can run on Rootstock. But the main difference is that the native currency of Rootstock is Bitcoin, and the security of Rootstock is provided by the Bitcoin miners. So today, between 50 and 60% of all Bitcoin miners in the world are protecting Bitcoin and Rootstock at the same time. So I would say Rootstock is the only second layer solution that has, Lightning as well, but with smart contracts is the only second layer smart contract solution that has full alignment of incentives with Bitcoin. And that's very important if you are a Bitcoiner, because every transaction in Rootstock, it's paid in Bitcoin and it's paid to the Bitcoin miners. So the more transactional activity on Rootstock, the stronger the Bitcoin ecosystem becomes. And so that's very important. And it was a decision we made when we designed Rootstock. We could have gone the Ethereum way and issue our own currency to fund the development. And we choose not to do that because we understood that when you have a different native currency in a decentralized blockchain, basically you start competing for resources with the other, with the primary chain. No, it's like if Rootstock had a different currency than Bitcoin, then the more successful Rootstock would become, the more of a threat it would become for Bitcoin. By having the same currency and sharing the same security infrastructure, Rootstock is fully aligned with the success of Bitcoin. And regarding, yeah.
And one question, because of the energy that's needed, I guess if you mine together, merge mine with Bitcoin, then there's no additional electricity needed for Rootstock.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
I mean, from a ecological, although I don't think the Bitcoin problem with energy is true in the sense that Bitcoin is not. I mean, there are no. I mean, Bitcoin is a scavenger of energy. Bitcoin uses energy that is wasted or not connected to the network, basically because for Bitcoin mining today, maybe in the future it would change, but until today, the cost of electricity that Bitcoin miners can pay is very low. It's like maybe 5 cents per kilowatt. So anywhere where an industry exists, an industry will pay 10 cents, 15 cents per kilowatt happily. So there's no way Bitcoin is competing with the productive industries or production industries for electricity. It's like using waste energy that is not consumed by any other industry. So at the end, Bitcoin is not increasing the footprint. And if it's using dirty energy, it's because the society is still incentivizing the production of dirty energy. So it's a problem of the society, not of Bitcoin, that we still have, carbon base or oil base. So we need to work on the root of the problem, not attack Bitcoin because of energy consumption. But in the case of Rootstock, Rootstock scales Bitcoin without expanding the footprint, the energy footprint of Bitcoin at all. And now Rootstock can do 100 transactions per second, so that's one order of magnitude more. But then we created layer 3 protocols that are the RSK infrastructure framework protocols that are for payment aggregation, what in Ethereum is called rollups, and also payment channels similar to Lightning, but on top of Rootstock, that enables that to go like 2 orders of magnitude beyond that. So we are talking about hundreds or thousands of transactions per second using the same security infrastructure. So you really can scale Bitcoin with RSK, with Rootstock, without creating any additional energy footprint. And that was, connecting to your first question, what was the purpose? Is like the purpose of Rootstock was actually turning Bitcoin into a full financial service system that could serve 1 billion people excluded from the financial system. And that's why Rootstock provides all the means to scale Bitcoin, to make it easy to use. Like the protocols we created on the layer 3 provide name services, so you can have like your alias and interact using your alias. It solves the scalability problems of blockchain and also provides interoperability with traditional systems and with other crypto economies. So the idea is that Rootstock like sorts out all the problems or shortcomings of Bitcoin as a payment system, but using the same infrastructure and the same native currency.
Do you have some examples? I think you have some DeFi projects already on RSK, like SOVRYN, for instance.
Yes.
There are also, I think, stable coins. You mentioned that before. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, you have the pioneers in Rootstock. Rootstock now has like 2,000 Bitcoins locked. So it's the second protocol in terms of total value locked after Blockstream's Liquid. So it has been growing a lot lately during this year, and it's thanks to those early pioneers, as you say, the first DeFi protocols to be launched on Rootstock. One is Money on Chain. Money on Chain created a protocol that is, in my opinion, the best stable asset protocol in the world at the moment, that enables you to have stable assets collateralized with crypto, and the first one was implemented using Bitcoin as collateral. It's called the Dollar on Chain. And the interesting thing is like it's over collateralized. So people providing the collateral are long-term Bitcoiners. So if you are a long-term Bitcoiner, you say, okay, I will put my Bitcoins to provide collateral to issue dollars. And as the Bitcoin price goes up, the difference between the depth of the system in dollar terms, it's given to the Bitcoin holders as a premium, as a plus. So it's basically you are betting on long term on Bitcoin appreciation and providing collateral to the issuance of the dollar peg stable assets. The good thing is like that dollar asset is always $1. There's no volatility like in other assets, and there's no counterparty risk. The only risk is platform risk. So it's like as the platform, both as the money on chain protocol and Rootstock becomes stronger, that goes away, and you don't need market makers, you don't need third parties. It's like you exchanging your stable assets against the protocol. So that's great, because in other protocols you need to depend, like MakerDAO in Ethereum, you need to depend on market makers, because each one of the collateralization pools is independent. So you don't have a liquidity pool that is shared among the whole protocol. In money on chain, it's like all Bitcoins are backing for all the dollars issued, and they have a ratio of 1-6, 1-7. So for each dollar issued, you have $7 in Bitcoin of collateral. So that's one, and that's like kind of the foundations, no? It's a peer. That was one of the original things we were pursuing when we created Rootstock, to create a truly peer-to-peer monetary system. So money on chain is that, it's a peer-to-peer monetary system. There's no third parties involved. And then on top of that, you have SOVRYN that is creating all the other added financial services, like swapping of assets, like decentralized exchanges, with automated market making, AMMs. And then you have also margin trading. So people who is like on the speculative side, they can trade all in a decentralized form. So it's very interesting, because now we are finally having like all the, like a mini financial system secured by Bitcoin, run on a decentralized environment.
And completely independent from regulations and KYC and these kinds of things, right?
Yes, until the point you want to touch the local economy. It's like if you operate within Rootstock, it's fully decentralized. There's no like regulation involvement. When you want to switch to the local economy, you have to comply. No, it's like
of course. Yeah. Before you mentioned the connection between the Lightning Network in El Salvador, like people that they might be able to switch or move their funds to dollar on chain, or what was that? How is that meant?
We are working. It can be to any stable asset that lives on the Rootstock network. So, but we are like working on creating a swap between Lightning and Lumino, or Lightning. The Lumino is the payment channel protocol in Rootstock, or between Lightning and Rootstock. So they can go directly from off-chain to on-chain, or off-chain to off-chain. So it's, if they do off-chain, it's very, it's like, it costs like a fraction of a cent per transaction. So it's very, very cheap, and you will be able to convert like Bitcoins into stable assets in Lumino instantly. Or if you want the security of on-chain transactions, you can go from Lightning to Rootstock and have the stable assets on a blockchain address. No?
And a Rootstock Bitcoin is a Bitcoin, or is it a Rootstock Bitcoin?
Well, I call them Bitcoins on the Rootstock network, because each Bitcoin on Rootstock is backed by one Bitcoin. So the only way you can create a Bitcoin but you have different security levels. No, it's like the safest Bitcoin you can have is a Bitcoin on the Bitcoin network. Then Bitcoins on Rootstock have different security assurances. So it's important that people understand that they don't have the same level of security, but they are actually a Bitcoin. It's like it's not. I mean, the other systems we have worked. That was one of the challenges when we built Rootstock, like how to trust minimize, the pegging of one Bitcoin on the Bitcoin network to one Bitcoin on the Rootstock network, and I think our scientific teams did an amazing job, because we got to the maximum possible security minimization or trust minimization in the current situation of Bitcoin, no? Because Bitcoin cannot understand transactions on another blockchain yet. So you have to trust. We have pegnatories. We have, a set of computers that run hardware modules that actually sign the transactions to release the funds on the Bitcoin network when somebody wants to convert from Rootstock to Bitcoin. On the other way around is truly trustless, and anybody can provide the proof of a Bitcoin transaction to create the Bitcoins on Rootstock. But on the way back, we are still relying on these servers. But our technical teams managed to reduce the trust needed on those servers to a minimum, because they run a security hardware module that actually validates, proof of work on the Rootstock chain, and validate that comes from a specific contract called the smart contract, and the operators of the server don't have access to the private keys. So it's like they cannot actually sign transactions at will. They only can sign those transactions that come from the bridge contract that is secured by the Bitcoin miner. So it's like very, very safe in that sense. And I think that's why we have 2,000 Bitcoins operating in that fashion, because it's like it has been proven to be pretty safe.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And do you also have a NFT project or possibilities on Rootstock?
Yes, there are 3 NFT projects coming. One that will be focused on Latin American art, so it will be focused on that specifically. The code name is Calo, but I don't think it will be the final name. And then there is an organization called Nifty Labs that they are building collectibles platform that is being launched. And there are, in 2019, we bought the biggest Spanish-speaking social network called Taringa. So Taringa, the objective of Taringa was to turn a social network into an open sharing economy and give the content creators and the users full ownership of the platform. So we are soon launching in Taringa also like the first step of that will be tokenization of the aliases and the channel ownership. So that will be NFT based. So people will own the digital assets and be part of the sharing economy.
And they also own their social media account in that way?
Exactly. So for example, if you have an alias, the alias is your property, so you can actually go and sell your alias on a marketplace. And also, if you own a channel, you have been building the content, creating you can actually take that channel and sell it as well. While you keep it, you will have revenue sharing of the advertisements run there. If you do referrals to the marketplace that is being built, you also will get revenue sharing of the assets sold in the marketplace with your referrals. So the idea is and we call it an open sharing economy because that's part of the concept we want to build. Like reputation traces are in the hands of the user. So that's part of the RIF identity technology we created that is basically self-sovereign identity, where people is owning all the reputational information instead of so it will be portable. All the reputation you build on Taringa, you can take it to another sharing economy and use it.
That sounds so exciting, and it also sounds as if it's actually very near, because I always thought, oh my God, I will never own my own data, but it really seems that this is only a few years away.
Well, the technology is already working. Like we have all the protocols. We have RIF storage, that is a decentralized marketplace for data storage, encrypted data storage that integrates IPFS and Swarm. And we are doing the final integrations to make the marketplace open, so people will be able to start paying other users to store their data in multiple places. Then you have RIF identity, and we have already the first applications that are using RIF identity for login. So we are removing SSO, like the single sign-on systems from Google, Facebook, and using single sign-on based on your keys, on your private keys. And we are implementing everything in Ethereum mostly as a lighthouse case, so people can see how you can build like a truly open social network and sharing economy. Because what people don't realize is today Facebook and Airbnb, Uber, all of them are actually close sharing economies. Those are walled gardens because they keep your reputational information for themselves. So with this, we are willing to disrupt that model. So yeah, I don't think it's even years away. I think it's months away.
Oh, so yeah. I'm looking very much forward to that, and we need to talk again as soon as that is launched, and I want to try it because I'm very excited about that technologies. I'm really waiting for it.
Yes, no, and that was part of our initial vision, because we said, if we want to truly, what will be the final frontier if we are successful building a truly decentralized financial system? And we are very close because we have peer-to-peer monetary system. Now we have lending, like in SOVRYN, we have lending, margin trading, decentralized exchange of assets. So we have all the fundamentals, the primitives of a financial system running. But what will be the final choke point? It will be access. It's like, if you think about it, it's like access is centralized through Google search and maybe a couple search engines more, and through the Play Store. So that is our final vision, is like how we create a truly decentralized internet secured by the Bitcoin network. And that's exactly what we are doing. It's like Rootstock is the economic coordination layer, and the Reef services are the infrastructure layer. And when you put all that together, then you get sovereignty not only of the financial system, but also of the infrastructure. So
of your digital life, basically,
exactly.
Of your communication and economy. Yeah,
exactly.
Wow. Cool, mind-blowing.
So it looks science fiction, but I'm very happy that after so many years of work, because we started with this in 2016, early 2016, I would say we are in a point where we are close to demonstrate this in a real life application and environment. So this is happening, it's a reality.
Yeah, congratulations on that, because I can remember when I came into the space in early 2017, everybody was talking about altcoins and blockchains, and Bitcoin can't do everything of all the things we want to do, And I always had in mind, but there's a sidechain, there's something Rootstock, it's also on Bitcoin, and it can do smart contracts. What are you all talking about, I mean, everything will happen in Bitcoin as well. So, yeah.
I think we were not very good at marketing, I would say.
Yeah, but that... It doesn't matter because you have been building all that time. Yeah.
Yes.
So yes. It will be great to see coming into fruition. So into life, everything.
Yeah. And people is already using this. Like we have people in Argentina sending money back to their families in Venezuela, for example, today. And e-shops, like some people send money like dollar on chains. Some people buy goods like on e-shops, and they give, instead of sending money, they send like food or different goods. So that's happening today. It's like only a few tens of thousands of users as of now, but as this keeps evolving and being more user friendly, I expect this will go to interesting numbers very soon.
So we're coming to an end soon, and as a closing question, there's a saying that goes, you don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you. How did Bitcoin in all those years change your behavior and your perspective of life?
I think the more important, I don't want to change Bitcoin, I want to expand it. So, in that sense, what we are doing is expanding Bitcoin, not changing it. But I think the more important thing that Bitcoin brought to me was the understanding of money. I didn't understood the depth of money in people's life. I always was looking at since I'm very young, since I'm 12, I always wanted to bring tools to improve people's life. I was exposed to the reality of the slums and to inequality when I was very young. But money, I could not connect money to the human element until I got into Bitcoin. So when I got into Bitcoin, I realized the human dimension of money. And yeah, I'm very grateful for that, because now I have, I think I have a more holistic view of how important money is for human beings and human development. And at the end, money is human effort, human value. So yeah, that's why Bitcoin is so important, because we are like removing third-party involvement in human value exchange. We are like going back to the true nature of value exchange, that is peer-to-peer exchange of value. It's in the white paper of Bitcoin, but I don't think people remember that all the time. But that's the more important thing, is we are going back to that initial exchange of value between two subjectivities, between two human beings, and removing the intermediation in that process. So it's
that's the beauty. Yeah,
that's that's how it changed me.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So Diego, where can people find you and follow your work?
Well, I'm most active in Twitter. My alias in Twitter is Dieguito. That is like little Diego in Spanish. It's DIEGUITO. So that's my nickname. And of course, if you go to rsk.co, you will find all the documentation. There's a developer network. That's where you can see how the ecosystem is growing and evolving. So that's the other place to see.
Okay, thank you very much. And do you have any plans to organize LaBitconf this year?
Yes, LaBitconf is happening in El Salvador, of course. It could not be anywhere any different. At the end of November. So it's not communicated broadly yet, but at the end of November, we'll have LaBitconf in El Salvador. So I highly recommend going there. It will be an amazing event.
Yeah, great. I mean, at mid-November is Adopting Bitcoin there, the other conference.
Yes, it's right after the Adopting Bitcoin conference.
Okay, because actually I want to go there in November, so then I know I will stay longer for LaBitconf, because I always wanted to visit LaBitconf, and also because I have you here, I wanted to ask you. I mean, I wrote this book, which is also sponsored.
I saw
the work is sponsored by
I love
by
it.
SOVRYN.
Yes,
I work together with SOVRYN on that, and we are now translating it to Spanish. So I want to also release it in El Salvador in November.
Absolutely. LaBitconf is all about education. It's like we always structure LaBitconf like from the more basic concepts to very complex topics over the 3-4 days that the conference lasts. And LaBitconf is like, we always say LaBitconf is an experience. It's like, if you go there, you will see it's like no other Bitcoin conference, in the sense that it's like the friendship, like everybody is very welcoming with the new people who comes to, like, it's like a big party and gathering of friends. So it's an amazing experience. You have to be there.
Mm-hmm. Great. I'm very much looking forward to it. Okay. So thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Anita. It was a pleasure. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Please subscribe to the Anita Posch Show at anita.link/subscribe and share the episode with your friends. See you next week on Thursday when it's time for the Anita Posch Show. Bye.